only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Dallas Cowboys. And after the sure laughter I've shown in the intro, last year was a bit of a repeat year of 2021. I could easily copy and paste everything I said about that season and put it here and it'll do justice. They had a talented roster. Dak had a historic year, as did CD. But they collapsed in the wild card round yet again. Mike McCarthy wasn't fired. And according to the Cowboys, it looked like they're okay with failure because they did not do much in free agency. They did something in the draft, but again, what's holding the Cowboys back is their horrible and eventual cap situation. I said last year was their do or die season, and I feel like this year really going to enforce that. And last year we had the New York Giants 12-5 season for a third year in a row. They started off with the New York Giants. They owned the New York Giants. They also beat up on the other New York team. But for the most part, the Cowboys were pretty solid. I mean, they didn't really have too many. Sure, they had a hiccup against the Cardinals, got gas against the 49ers, and lost a heartbreaker to the Eagles. But for the most part, the Cowboys were able to keep things afloat. Sure, they lost two meaningless AFC opponents to the Bills and Dolphins, respectively. But what they did was kept winning in the NFC. At the end of the day, the conference wins was what matters. That's why they got the number 2 seed, and that's why they lost to the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round. And I'm still laughing about it. I knew when I made my wild card predictions early this year, I knew they were going to lose. Because this is what they do. They do this best. They win in the regular season. Dak beats up on cupcake teams, and then when it comes to the playoffs, they go ghost. But let's talk about the highlights of this team. And they all start off with Dak and CD Lamb. Dak, especially during the month of November, he was an MVP candidate for the first time in his career. And for CD Lamb, he had his best year. And they also won, I think they won Play of the Year for that wild play they had against the Lions. So that's something to look at. And then they stole the NFC East from the Philadelphia Eagles. Thanks to the Eagles collapsing, also going into collapse in the end of the season, they were able to sneak past and win the division. Going to show that it's still been 2 decades since the NFC East had a repeat winner. Now the lowlights. Well, the Stephon Diggs injury was not Stephon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs injury was painful to deal with because he just signed a contract extension during that offseason. After 2 games, he tore his ACL in practice. The secondary wasn't the same, although Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore held up the fort for the most part. This team was not good on the road. They only went 4-5 on the road, with their 3 wins, with their wins being against the Giants twice. The Giants, Washington, they beat up on the Carolina Panthers because, of course, that's what they're supposed to do. And they beat up on the Chargers, which that was pretty much a prototypical home game for the Cowboys because they have a big following in Los Angeles. But the rest of the road games really showed the world that the Cowboys may not have been what they ought to be. And because of that, they once again got owned by the Green Bay Packers. And like what I said with the Packers, they're tired of losing to this team. It gets old at some point. And let's look at their acquisitions and cue more laughter for this team. All in, Jerry Jones said. And this is their all-in move. Signing Eric Kendricks from the Chargers. He was actually supposed to sign with the 49ers, but the Cowboys were able to poach him last minute. And then reuniting Zeke with Jerry Jones. Fun fact. The Cowboys are paying more for him when they cut him than they are now when they signed him again. What an embarrassment. And as for their departures, most of them going to Washington, like their center Tyler Biadasz and Dorrance Armstrong. They lost Tony Pollard to the Titans. Tyron Smith is now with the Jets. Neville Gallimore, he's gone. And Gallup, I believe, is with the Raiders now after June 1st. And in the draft, questionable decisions. Sure, they added Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma and Cooper Beebe. They're saying he's like a steal, but the rest isn't really that noteworthy. They added a linebacker from Notre Dame, a corner for Wake Forest, a wide receiver from Southeast Missouri State, another tackle from Louisiana, and a defensive tackle from Auburn. Yeah, they did not make a lot of splash moves. In other words, it's been a really quiet offseason for the Cowboys in a do-or-die season. What will they do or will they die this year? Stay tuned to find out. Alright, Dallas Cowboys, let's take a look. I'm actually really curious on how this is going to go. And you're starting your season off on the road against the Cleveland Browns. Everyone's marketing this game high because this is Tom Brady's first game he's going to call in his career. But against Amari Cooper, going up against Myles Garrett, I think this is going to be a tough game to start the season. I have the Browns winning at home. But week 2 against the Saints, and because I don't think very highly of New Orleans this year, I do have Dallas winning at home. And then, off the back, Baltimore Ravens. Raven team that just missed out on the postseason. But going up against a two-headed running game against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, that's going to be tough to deal with. I got to go with the Ravens on the road. But for Dallas on the road against the New York Giants, I do have them winning that game. Then week 5, oh boy, Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, anyone who's older than 50 years old, this game has a lot of meaning to them. But for the young generations, they don't really have those connections. But in this game, I know Dallas is coming off a midi bye, but this might be a typical BS on. I got to win that against them, avenging what happened to them last week or last year. 49ers, Dallas losing that game. Week 9 against Atlanta Road. And week 10 against the Eagles. Against the Houston Texans, winning against the Texans week 11. Again, I think Houston's going to be a good team, but I don't think they're going to be the same team as they were last year. Of the more kind of surprise me in wild card round. We'll just have to see what happens. So anyway, safely, and I'm